A mansion, a powerful widowed CEO who's way too serious, a 6-year-old with criminal-level creativity, and a perfect nanny nobody can fire because she simply won't be shaken. The problem is, he didn't expect someone unimpressed by money, status, or a cold stare, and definitely not someone who could make that house sound alive again. If you like humor, heart and sparks, come in. Theodore Walsh sat behind his mahogany desk, fingers steepled beneath his chin, trying to maintain the composure that had built his empire. 12 babysitters, 6 months, 0 success. The irony wasn't lost on him. He could negotiate billion-dollar mergers without breaking a sweat, but one 6-year-old with a vendetta against caregivers had brought him to his knees. Mr. Walsh, I'm afraid we can no longer provide services to your household. The agency director's voice on the phone was apologetic, but firm. Your daughter's creativity has exhausted our resources. Creativity. That was one way to describe Sophie's reign of terror. The glue incident, the fake spider collection, the alarm clock symphony at 3 in the morning. Each babysitter had fled faster than the last. He ended the call and pressed his palms against his eyes. International meetings in Tokyo loomed in 2 weeks. Critical negotiations that could make or break the company's expansion. He couldn't bring Sophie. She'd terrify the Japanese executives. He couldn't leave her with just the housekeeper. Mrs. Chen was 65 and had already threatened to quit twice. His office door burst open. "You look like death," Marcus Chen announced, dropping into the leather chair across from him. His business partner and closest friend had zero concept of professional boundaries, which was exactly why Theodore tolerated him. 12 babysitters, Marcus. I heard. The last one quit via text message, right? Didn't even come back for her things. Marcus laughed, then caught Theodore's glare. Sorry, not funny, except it kind of is. I have Tokyo in 2 weeks. I know someone. Marcus pulled out his phone. My wife's book club friend. Apparently this woman has never been fired. Not once. She's like the babysitter whisperer or something. Theodore raised an eyebrow. And she'd be willing to take on Sophie? My wife says she specializes in difficult cases, something about emotional intelligence and actually listening to kids instead of just managing them. Marcus shrugged. Worth a shot, right? 2 hours later, Theodore found himself reviewing a surprisingly thin resume. Eleanor Turner, 28, with glowing references that seemed too good to be true. No photograph, which immediately made him suspicious. People who looked like models always included photos. People with something to hide didn't. If this story is touching your heart, show your support. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. Every action helps us keep bringing you new stories full of emotion. When she walked into his office, Theodore's first thought was that she looked nothing like what he'd expected. She was pretty in an understated way. Dark hair pulled into a simple ponytail, minimal makeup, wearing a navy cardigan over a white blouse and grey slacks. Nothing flashy, nothing calculated. She clutched her purse with both hands and wouldn't quite meet his eyes. Perfect. Another one who'd crumble within a week. Miss Turner. He gestured to the chair, his voice deliberately cold. Your resume is impressive, almost suspiciously so. She sat down carefully, perched on the edge of the seat. Thank you, I wasn't finished. Theodore leaned back, studying her. 12 babysitters in 6 months, all of them highly qualified, all of them quit. What makes you think you'll be different? Her hands twisted in her lap. I have experience with challenging children. I believe every child acts out for a reason, and if we can identify... Sophie doesn't need a therapist. She needs someone who can handle her. He stood, using his full 6'2" frame to intimidate. It usually worked. My daughter is exceptionally intelligent and exceptionally stubborn. The last babysitter lasted 3 days before Sophie convinced her the house was haunted. The one before that quit after finding her entire wardrobe replaced with children's costumes. Are you prepared for that level of psychological warfare from a 6-year-old? Eleanor's face flushed pink, but she didn't respond. Her fingers gripped her purse tighter. I need to leave for Tokyo in 2 weeks, Theodore continued, circling around his desk. Critical business meetings. I can't have my daughter terrorizing another caregiver while I'm trying to negotiate international contracts. If you can't commit to staying at least 3 months, don't waste my time. Something flickered in her eyes then, something that looked almost like anger, but she swallowed it down, nodding quietly. Theodore felt a strange disappointment. Another pushover. Another failure waiting to happen. You'll start Monday. If you make it through the first week, we'll discuss long-term arrangements. Your salary will be... Maybe the problem isn't the babysitters. He stopped mid-sentence. Excuse me? Eleanor's face was now completely red, but she'd straightened in her chair. Maybe the problem is the education the child is receiving. If 12 qualified professionals couldn't connect with your daughter, perhaps the issue is that she's not being taught how to trust people, or how to process her emotions, or... She clapped a hand over her mouth, eyes wide with horror at her own words. Theodore stared at her. In 10 years of running this company, countless board meetings, hundreds of employee reviews, no one had ever spoken to him like that. Certainly not someone applying for a job. He should fire her on the spot. End this interview immediately. Instead, he found himself leaning against his desk, arms crossed, genuinely curious. Go on. I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have... She stood up quickly, nearly knocking over her purse. I'll see myself out. Sit down, Miss Turner. She froze. You started something. Finish it. His voice was dangerously quiet. You think I'm a bad father? No. She sat back down, flustered. That's not what I meant. Children who lose a parent need stability, consistency. If she's had 12 different caregivers in 6 months, she's probably testing each one to see if they'll stay. It's not about psychological warfare. It's about grief. The word hung in the air between them like a confession. Theodore's jaw tightened. Sophie had been 3 when Emma died. 3 years of therapy, child psychologists, gentle parenting books. Nothing had prepared him for raising a daughter alone. Nothing had prepared him for the guilt that gnawed at him every time Sophie asked why Mommy wasn't coming back. You're hired, he said abruptly. Eleanor blinked. What? Start Monday, 8 a.m. I'll have your contract ready. He turned back to his desk, effectively dismissing her. Don't be late. She stood slowly, confusion written all over her face. At the door, she paused. Mr. Walsh? Why did you hire me? I was incredibly rude. Theodore didn't look up from his computer. Because you're the first person in 6 months who didn't see my daughter as a problem to be managed. You saw her as a child who needed help. He paused. And because you had the courage to tell me the truth when everyone else was too intimidated. I respect that. When she left, Theodore pulled up the security camera feed showing the front entrance. Eleanor walked to her car, a beat-up sedan that had seen better days, and sat in the driver's seat for a full minute before covering her face with her hands. Crying? Or laughing at her own audacity? Either way, he thought, watching her drive away, Sophie had finally met her match. Whether his daughter realized it yet or not, he just hoped Miss Eleanor Turner was as resilient as her resume claimed, because Monday morning was going to be a battlefield, and despite himself, Theodore smiled. For the first time in 6 months, he felt something that almost resembled hope. Eleanor stood outside the Walsh mansion Monday morning, her heart hammering against her ribs. The house was enormous, all white stone and tall windows that probably cost more than she'd earn in 5 years. She'd spent the entire weekend second-guessing her decision. What had possessed her to speak to Theodore Walsh like that? The man was a billionaire CEO, and she'd basically called him a bad parent to his face. The fact that he'd hired her anyway terrified her more than if he'd thrown her out. Mrs. Chen, the housekeeper, answered the door with a sympathetic smile. Good luck, dear. You'll need it. Not reassuring. Sophie Walsh sat at the kitchen table, swinging her legs and eating cereal with the innocent expression of an angel. She had her father's dark hair and sharp intelligence in her eyes, but where Theodore's gaze was intense and commanding, Sophie's sparkled with mischief. Hi, Eleanor said, setting down her bag. I'm Eleanor. You can call me Ellie if you want. Sophie studied her with the assessment of a general surveying enemy troops. You're pretty. Not as pretty as the last one, though. She looked like a princess. Well, I look like a regular person, which I am. Eleanor sat down across from her. Your dad hired me to take care of you while he's at work. He hired 12 other people too. They all left. I heard. Why did you want them to leave? Sophie's spoon paused halfway to her mouth. No one had asked her that before. Because why? Because they were fake. The little girl's voice went quiet. They smiled too much and talked in weird voices and kept saying everything was fine when everything wasn't fine. Eleanor's heart squeezed. What isn't fine, Sophie? Nothing. Forget it. The walls came back up. Do you want to see my room? The tour was clearly a tactical mission. Sophie showed Eleanor every inch of the house, chattering about irrelevant details, while Eleanor mentally catalogued potential danger zones, the suspiciously loosened banister railing, the strategically placed rope that could easily trip someone in the dark. The bucket balanced on top of a slightly open door. Amateur hour. That night, Eleanor texted her grandmother. Started the job. The kid's a terror, but she's grieving. I can work with grief. Her grandmother's response was immediate. And the father. You said he's single. How single? Like divorced single or widowed single? Grandma, focus. I am focused on my granddaughter's love life. Eleanor rolled her eyes, smiling despite herself. Widowed, 3 years, still wears wedding ring, very much not interested in romance. We'll see about that. You always did have a thing for broken men who need fixing. I do not have a thing for... Eleanor stopped typing. Did she? No, absolutely not. Theodore Walsh was her employer, a grieving widower, a man so far out of her league they weren't even playing the same sport. She went to bed determined to focus on Sophie and nothing else. Day 2 began at 6:47 a.m. when Eleanor's phone alarm went off, except it wasn't her alarm. It was her phone, blaring at full volume from inside the toilet tank. Still dry, thankfully, but the message was clear. Welcome to psychological warfare. By day 3, Eleanor had survived glue on her chair. She'd checked first. Plastic insects in her breakfast. She'd screamed appropriately, then calmly removed them. And an elaborate string trap that would have made a cartoon proud. She'd simply stepped over it. What Sophie didn't know was that Eleanor had grown up with 3 brothers who'd invented creative torture. This was child's play. On day 4, things escalated. Eleanor found all her clothes swapped with children's princess costumes. She walked downstairs wearing a Cinderella dress that barely reached her knees, curtsied dramatically, and announced, "Your Highness requests pizza for dinner." Sophie's jaw dropped. Then, for the first time, she laughed, really laughed. Mrs. Chen, watching from the doorway, looked like she might cry with relief. That evening, when Theodore arrived home from work, the house was different. Music played from the living room, something upbeat and cheerful. He could hear laughter. His daughter's laughter. When was the last time he'd heard that sound? He found them in the living room, Eleanor still in the ridiculous princess costume, Sophie in a matching one, both of them dancing like absolute lunatics. Paint and glitter covered the coffee table where they'd apparently been making some kind of craft project. They didn't notice him at first. Theodore stood in the doorway, transfixed. Eleanor moved with unself-conscious joy, spinning Sophie around, both of them giggling. Her dark hair had escaped its ponytail, falling in waves around her face. She looked young, happy, alive. Something twisted in his chest. Something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Something he immediately shut down. Having fun? His voice came out harsher than intended. Eleanor froze mid-spin. Mr. Walsh, you're home early. She tugged at the ridiculous dress, face flaming red. Sophie wanted to, we were just... Daddy! Sophie ran to him. Ellie didn't get scared of any of my tricks, and she wore the princess dress, and we made art. Look! She dragged him to the table where they'd apparently recreated the entire solar system in glitter and paint. It's very sparkly, Theodore managed. Go change for dinner, Eleanor told Sophie gently. We're having actual food, not just pizza. Sophie skipped away, still humming the song that had been playing. When she was gone, Theodore turned to Eleanor, who was desperately trying to wipe glitter off her arms. This is not what I hired you for. Her face fell. I'm sorry, I thought... I hired you to take care of my daughter, not to enable chaos. Mr. Walsh, she's 6. 6-year-olds need play and creativity and... Discipline, he interrupted. Structure, not... He gestured at the glitter explosion. Whatever this is. Eleanor's jaw set in that way he was starting to recognize. The way that meant she was about to say something he wouldn't like. Your daughter has been terrorizing caregivers for 6 months because she's testing them. She wants to know if they'll stay when things get messy, literally and figuratively. Today was the first day she actually engaged with me instead of trying to make me quit. So yes, there's glitter everywhere, but I'd rather clean up glitter than have another caregiver flee in tears." Theodore stared at her. She stared back, chin raised despite the absurd princess costume and glitter in her hair. Mrs. Chen cleared her throat from the doorway. "Dinner in 10 minutes. I'll set an extra place." "That won't be necessary," Theodore said. "Miss Turner can—" "Ellie's eating with us," Sophie's voice carried from upstairs. "I already told her she has to." Eleanor bit her lip, clearly fighting a smile. "I should probably go change first." "Probably," Theodore agreed, his own lips twitching despite himself. As she hurried upstairs, he pulled out his phone and opened the security camera app he'd had installed years ago. He'd been monitoring the feeds all day from his office. He'd seen every moment. The patience Eleanor showed when Sophie glued her notebook shut. The calm way she'd handled the fake spider incident. The genuine delight when Sophie finally opened up about her mother. He'd also seen the way Eleanor had cried in the bathroom after Sophie shared that she missed her mom. The way she'd pulled herself together and come back out with a smile. The way she treated his daughter with respect and kindness instead of condescension. Marcus had called him during lunch, laughing. "Dude, you've checked those cameras 17 times today. Just admit you're impressed with her. I'm monitoring my employee's performance. Sure, that's why you smiled when she wore that princess dress. Very professional." Theodore had hung up on him. Now watching Eleanor come back downstairs in her normal clothes, hair still damp from a quick wash, he felt it again. That strange twist in his chest. The unwelcome awareness that she was attractive, that her laugh was genuinely joyful, that she looked at his daughter with real affection, not obligation. Dangerous thoughts, inappropriate thoughts. She was the help, an employee, nothing more, even if her eyes sparkled when she challenged him. Even if she'd made his daughter laugh for the first time in months, even if watching her interact with Sophie over dinner, he caught himself staring at the way candlelight caught in her hair. Professional boundaries, Walsh. Remember those. After dinner, when Eleanor was getting ready to leave, Sophie hugged her fiercely. "You'll come back tomorrow, right? You promise?" "I promise." Eleanor knelt down to eye level. "But I have a question for you. Can we stop with the tricks? Not because they scare me, but because I'd rather spend our time actually having fun instead of you testing me. Deal?" Sophie considered this seriously. "Deal. But I reserve the right to 1 trick per week, just to keep you on your toes." "That's fair." They shook on it solemnly. Theodore walked Eleanor to the door. She's never done that before. Made a deal with a caregiver. She's never had one stick around long enough to earn her trust. Eleanor pulled on her jacket. "She's a good kid, Mr. Walsh. She's just scared." "I know." The admission cost him something. "Thank you for today." Eleanor smiled, and Theodore found himself memorizing the way it lit up her entire face. "See you tomorrow." As he watched her drive away, Sophie appeared at his elbow. "I like her, Daddy." "Good. That's good. Do you like her?" Theodore looked down at his daughter's too knowing expression. "She's a competent employee." "That's not what I asked." Sophie grinned, looking far too pleased with herself. "But okay, if you say so." She skipped away, leaving Theodore standing in the doorway, wondering when his 6-year-old had become a mind reader, and wondering why, for the first time in 3 years, he'd noticed what a woman looked like when she smiled. 2 weeks into Eleanor's employment, Theodore's life had developed an unexpected rhythm. He'd catch himself checking his watch during meetings, calculating when he could reasonably leave work. Not because he was shirking responsibilities, he'd never done that in his life, but because dinner at home had become interesting. Sophie talked more, laughed more, and Eleanor had a way of gently mocking his rigid dinner rules that made him question why he'd ever thought children needed to discuss stock portfolios over pasta. "So then, Mr. Grumpy over here," Eleanor tilted her head toward Theodore, "told Sophie she couldn't have dessert until she explained the concept of supply and demand." Theodore set down his fork. "That's not what happened." "That's exactly what happened." Sophie giggled into her napkin. "And I told him ice cream has high demand and low supply because we only have 1 tub, so the price should go up." "Entrepreneurial thinking," Theodore defended himself. "She's 6, Eleanor said, but she was smiling. That smile that made his throat feel tight. His phone buzzed. "Marcus, dinner meeting tomorrow, 7 p.m. You, me, important discussion about Tokyo trip. Theodore frowned. They'd already covered the Tokyo details extensively. The next evening, Marcus showed up at Theodore's office at precisely 7 p.m., but instead of heading to the restaurant, he planted himself in the visitor chair with a knowing grin. "We're not going to dinner, are we?" Theodore asked. "Nope. We're having a come-to-Jesus meeting about your babysitter." "Marcus, dude, you've checked the security cameras 43 times today." Marcus held up his phone, showing the app login history. "I have access to the same system, remember? I can see when you're logged in." Theodore's jaw tightened. "I'm monitoring my daughter's care." "You're monitoring her caregiver?" Marcus leaned forward. "Look, I'm not judging. Eleanor seems great. Sophie's happier than she's been in years. But man, you've been staring at your phone with this dopey expression, and I do not have a dopey expression. You smiled at a text message about Sophie finger painting. You never smile at texts. You barely smile in general." Marcus studied him. "When was the last time you let yourself be happy?" The question landed like a physical blow. Theodore stood, moving to the window. "Emma's been gone 3 years." "I know. I was there, remember? I held you together when you fell apart." Marcus's voice softened. "But she wouldn't want you frozen in grief forever." "I'm not—" Theodore stopped. Was he? He went to work, came home, existed, but living. When had he last felt truly alive? Then he remembered, 4 nights ago, when Eleanor had challenged his assertion that modern art was pointless. She'd argued with such passion, cheeks flushed, eyes bright, that he'd found himself arguing back, just to keep the conversation going. To keep her looking at him like he was worth debating with. "I made Emma a promise," Theodore said quietly, "that I'd take care of Sophie, that no one would replace her mother. Did Emma say that? Or did you interpret it that way?" Theodore's silence was answer enough. "She loved you," Marcus continued, "and people who love each other want each other to be happy, not martyred, not alone." He stood, clapping Theodore on the shoulder. "I'm not saying you need to marry your babysitter, but maybe stop punishing yourself for noticing she exists." After Marcus left, Theodore sat in his office until the cleaning crew arrived. He pulled up the security footage from earlier that day. Eleanor and Sophie baking cookies, flour everywhere. Eleanor's laugh when Sophie accidentally threw a handful at her. The way she'd retaliated by dotting Sophie's nose with frosting. The way his daughter looked at Eleanor with something that resembled hope. The way Theodore had started looking forward to coming home. He closed the app and rubbed his eyes. Professional boundaries. That was the answer. He'd maintain professional boundaries, and these inconvenient feelings would fade. Except 3 days later, professional boundaries exploded spectacularly. Victoria Sterling, his director of marketing, had always been professionally flirtatious. Theodore had never encouraged it, but he'd never explicitly shut it down either. She was good at her job, and he'd assumed her attention was harmless ambition, until she showed up at his house on Friday evening with urgent documents that absolutely could have waited until Monday. Eleanor answered the door in casual clothes, jeans and an oversized sweater that kept sliding off one shoulder. Her hair was down for once, falling in dark waves past her shoulders. She looked soft, approachable, young. Victoria, in contrast, wore a designer suit that probably cost more than Eleanor made in a month, her blonde hair in a sleek updo, makeup flawless. "I'm here to see Theodore," Victoria announced, breezing past Eleanor like she owned the place. "Where is he?" "Mr. Walsh is upstairs with his daughter," Eleanor said politely. "If you'd like to wait in the study, I'll find him myself, thanks." Victoria's heels clicked on the hardwood as she headed for the stairs. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. She intercepted Victoria at the landing. "I don't think that's appropriate. Mr. Walsh is putting his daughter to bed, and you would know about appropriateness." Victoria's smile was sharp. "You're the help, dear. I'm his executive director. There's a hierarchy." Something flickered in Eleanor's expression. Hurt, then anger, then calculation. "Of course, my mistake. Let me get him for you." She knocked on Sophie's door. Theodore opened it, looking relaxed in jeans and a t-shirt instead of his usual suit. "Yes? Miss Sterling is here with urgent documents." Eleanor's voice was neutral, professional. "She's waiting in your study." Theodore's jaw tightened. "It's 8 o'clock on a Friday. She said it was urgent." He studied Eleanor's face, noting the tension there. "Thank you. I'll handle it." In the study, Victoria had made herself comfortable, perched on the edge of his desk. Theodore. Sorry to interrupt your evening, but these contracts need your signature before Monday. He flipped through them. Nothing urgent. Nothing that required his immediate attention. These could have been emailed. I was in the neighborhood. She touched his arm, fingers lingering. And I thought maybe we could grab dinner, discuss the Tokyo strategy. From the hallway, he could hear Eleanor in the kitchen, helping Sophie with something. Their voices carried, Eleanor patient, Sophie excited about some project. I don't think that's a good idea, Theodore said, removing Victoria's hand from his arm. Why not? You're single. I'm single. We work well together. She moved closer. Emma was lovely, but it's been 3 years, Theodore. You're allowed to move on. Victoria. His voice went cold. I appreciate your professional contributions to the company, but this, he gestured between them, is inappropriate and unwelcome. If you can't maintain professional boundaries, we'll need to discuss your position. Her eyes widened, then hardened. Of course. Professional boundaries. My mistake, Mr. Walsh. She gathered the documents. I'll see myself out. She swept past Eleanor in the kitchen without a word. Eleanor was helping Sophie wash dishes and definitely didn't dump a full glass of grape juice on Victoria's cream suit as the woman passed. Except she absolutely did. Oh no! Eleanor gasped. I'm so sorry. It slipped. Victoria stood there, purple liquid dripping down her front, fury radiating from every pore. You did that on purpose. It was an accident, Eleanor said sweetly. I'm just the help. We're clumsy sometimes. Theodore appeared in the doorway, fighting the smile tugging at his lips. Victoria shot him a look that promised retribution, then stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The moment she was gone, Sophie burst into giggles. That was awesome! Sophie, we don't celebrate other people's misfortune, Eleanor said, but she was grinning. That was not an accident, Theodore said. Eleanor turned to him, eyes wide with fake innocence. Mr. Walsh, are you accusing me of assault by beverage? He shouldn't laugh. He should reprimand her for antagonizing his employee. He should maintain his authority. Instead, he laughed. Really laughed, for the first time in 3 years. And Eleanor's smile in response made every professional boundary he'd been trying to maintain crumble to dust. Eleanor's phone rang at 6:30 a.m. on Saturday morning. She groaned, reaching for it without opening her eyes. Only one person called this early. Grandma, it's Saturday. And? The early bird gets the worm. Or in your case, the early granddaughter gets the juicy gossip about her handsome billionaire boss. Eleanor sat up, rubbing her face. He's not my boss. I mean, he is my boss, but he's not my... It's not like that. Mm-hmm. That's why you've mentioned him exactly 47 times in the past 2 weeks. Her grandmother's voice crackled with delight. I counted. I talk about Sophie mostly. Sophie and her dad went to the park. Sophie's dad made the funniest comment. Sophie's dad looked so tired today I wanted to make him coffee, but that would be weird, right, Grandma? Her grandmother mimicked Eleanor's voice with alarming accuracy. Face it, sweetie, you've got it bad. Eleanor flopped back on her pillow. I can't have it bad. He's Theodore Walsh. I'm his daughter's babysitter. We exist in completely different universes. Your grandfather was a successful lawyer, and I was his secretary. People said the same thing about us. That was different. How? Eleanor couldn't answer that. Instead, she changed the subject. How's the pension doing? Don't deflect. Tell Grandma what's really going on. So Eleanor did. She talked about Sophie's progress, the way the little girl had started trusting her, the dinner conversations that had become less awkward and more genuine. And yes, she mentioned Theodore, the way he'd laughed at the grape juice incident, the way he looked at his daughter with such fierce love, the way he sometimes caught Eleanor's eye across the dinner table, and something electric seemed to pass between them. He's still wearing his wedding ring, Eleanor finished quietly. He's not over his wife. Grief doesn't have a timeline, honey, but it also doesn't mean his heart is permanently closed. Her grandmother paused. Does he look at you? What? When you're not paying attention, does he look at you? Eleanor thought about catching Theodore's reflection in the kitchen window sometimes, his eyes fixed on her as she helped Sophie with homework, the way he'd stare at her during dinner until she said something to make him blink and look away. Sometimes. Maybe. I don't know. He looks. Trust me, I know that look. Your grandfather had it. Her grandmother's voice turned wistful. Love doesn't announce itself with trumpets, sweetie. Sometimes it sneaks up wearing everyday clothes and a tired smile. After they hung up, Eleanor couldn't fall back asleep. She kept replaying Thursday night, the way Theodore had stood in the kitchen doorway, watching her accidentally dump juice on Victoria, the way he'd fought that smile, the way he'd laughed, really, truly laughed, and looked younger, lighter, almost happy. Then she remembered the wedding ring on his finger and felt guilty for even thinking about him that way. Monday morning brought Sophie's first day back at school after a long weekend. Eleanor arrived to chaos. Sophie had declared war on her closet, claiming nothing was right for the first day back. The blue dress makes me look like a baby. The yellow one is too fancy. This one has a stain. Clothes flew through the air. Eleanor ducked, catching a flying sock. How about the green dress with the flowers? That's boring. Theodore appeared in the doorway, already dressed in an impeccable charcoal suit, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. He took one look at the disaster zone and his expression went carefully neutral. Sophie, you have 10 minutes. Choose something or I'm choosing for you. Daddy doesn't understand fashion, Sophie wailed dramatically. Eleanor bit back a laugh. Theodore shot her a look that clearly said, "Help me." "Okay, fashion emergency," Eleanor announced. "Sophie, close your eyes." "Why?" "Trust me, eyes closed." Sophie obeyed, and Eleanor quickly grabbed the green dress, the purple cardigan, and Sophie's favorite sparkly shoes. Now open. Ta-da! The perfect first-day outfit, chosen by fate. Sophie's eyes lit up. Fate chose my outfit? Absolutely, fate has excellent taste. Eleanor helped her get dressed while Theodore watched from the doorway, something unreadable in his expression. When Sophie skipped downstairs for breakfast, he lingered. "Thank you. I would have just forced her into the first thing I grabbed and we'd both be miserable. She's 6. Everything is a crisis at 6. Eleanor started gathering the scattered clothes. You can't logic a 6-year-old out of feelings. I'm not good at feelings. The admission came quietly. I'm good at numbers, strategy, control. But this... He gestured helplessly at the mess. I'm lost. Eleanor straightened, holding an armful of dresses. You're doing fine. She adores you. She tolerates me. She adores you. There was something in his voice, not quite jealousy, but close. You walked in 3 weeks ago and became her favorite person. That's not true. She talks about you constantly. Ellie said this. Ellie thinks that. Ellie's so funny. He ran a hand through his dark hair, messing it from its perfect style. I've been her father for 6 years and I can't make her smile the way you do. Eleanor set down the clothes and stepped closer. Mr. Walsh. Theodore. When we're not in front of Sophie, just call me Theodore. The intimacy of his first name felt dangerous. Theodore, she loves you completely, but you're her dad, which means you're also the enforcer, the rule maker, the one who has to make hard choices. I get to be the fun one because I don't have that responsibility. It's not a competition. He studied her face like he was memorizing it. You're very wise for 28. I grew up with 3 older brothers. You learn wisdom, or you get pranked to death. She smiled. Sophie's tricks were amateur hour compared to my childhood. His lips twitched. I should have hired someone with brothers earlier. They stood there in Sophie's disaster of a bedroom, and Eleanor became hyper-aware of how close they were standing. Close enough to see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Close enough to notice he smelled like expensive cologne and coffee. Close enough that if she leaned forward just slightly... Ellie! I can't find my backpack. Sophie's voice shattered the moment. Eleanor stepped back quickly, heart hammering. Coming! She fled downstairs, leaving Theodore standing among the scattered clothes, touching his wedding ring like a talisman against whatever he'd just felt. Later that evening, after Sophie was in bed, Eleanor was gathering her things to leave when Theodore stopped her at the door. I've been thinking, he said, then stopped. Started again. Tokyo. The trip is in a week. I'll be gone for 10 days. Sophie and I will be fine. I know, but... He pulled out a credit card. I want you to stay here, in the guest room. So Sophie has continuity. And this is for anything you both need. Activities, meals out, whatever. Eleanor stared at the platinum card like it might bite her. I can't accept that. It's not for you. It's for my daughter. I have my own money for... Please. The word came rough. Let me do this. Let me know she's taken care of while I'm gone. That she has everything she needs. What Sophie needs is you, Eleanor wanted to say, but she saw the guilt in his eyes, the fear, the weight of being a single parent trying to balance everything. Okay, she agreed softly, but I'm keeping receipts for everything. His smile was small but genuine. I wouldn't expect anything less. As she drove home, her phone buzzed. Her grandmother. So, any developments? Eleanor thought about standing too close in Sophie's bedroom, the way Theodore had said her name, the trust in his eyes when he'd handed her that credit card. He asked me to stay at the house while he's traveling. Her grandmother's response was immediate. And so it begins. Eleanor laughed despite herself. Nothing was beginning. This was just a job, just a professional arrangement, just her lying to herself at every red light on the way home. The week before Theodore's Tokyo trip, a ghost from his past materialized in his office lobby. Cassandra Price stood by the reception desk in a tailored burgundy suit, her auburn hair shorter than he remembered, her smile confident and familiar. She'd been his business partner in the early days, brilliant, ambitious, and secretly in love with him. She'd left for London when he'd gotten engaged to Emma, claiming a better opportunity. He hadn't heard from her in 8 years. Theodore Walsh. She crossed the marble floor with practiced grace. Still as punctual as ever, I see. Cassandra. He recovered quickly, extending his hand. She kissed his cheek instead, European style. This is unexpected. I'm back, permanently, and I have a proposition for you. Over coffee in his office, she pitched a joint venture that was actually brilliant. Her London connections plus his American market dominance could revolutionize their industry. The numbers made sense. The strategy was sound. What didn't make sense was the way she kept touching his arm, the way she mentioned casually that she'd never married, the way she looked at him like 8 years hadn't passed. I heard about Emma, Cassandra said softly. I'm so sorry. She was lovely. Thank you. And you have a daughter now, 6 years old. Sophie. Just saying his daughter's name made him smile. I'd love to meet her. Maybe dinner sometime. We could discuss the venture and you could tell me about fatherhood. Her smile was warm, inviting. I've missed you, Theodore. Before he could respond, Marcus burst in without knocking, his usual style. Walsh, we need to... Oh. He spotted Cassandra, and his eyes widened. Cassandra Price, wow. Blast from the past. Marcus Chen, still barging into offices unannounced. Cassandra laughed. Some things never change. After she left, Marcus shut the door and leaned against it. Okay, so your ex-business partner, who was totally in love with you, just happened to return from London with a convenient business proposal, right when you're finally starting to move on with your life. I'm not moving on with... You smiled when you said Sophie's name. You only do that when you're talking about her with Eleanor. Marcus crossed his arms. Cassandra's timing is suspiciously perfect, and I saw the way she looked at you. That woman is here for more than business. Theodore rubbed his temples. Even if that were true, which I doubt, which you're absolutely blind to. It doesn't matter. The venture makes financial sense. Just be careful, man. Cassandra's smart and sophisticated and probably exactly what your board wants. But is she what you want? Theodore didn't answer because he didn't know anymore. That evening he came home to find Eleanor and Sophie in the kitchen, covered in flour and laughing hysterically. Apparently, Sophie had sneezed directly into the mixing bowl, creating an explosion of white powder that had coated them both like ghosts. We're making cookies for your trip, Eleanor explained, wiping flour from her face and somehow smearing more on. So you'll have something from home while you're in Tokyo. Something in his chest cracked open. I didn't have to do that. Sophie insisted. She wanted you to have her special chocolate chip recipe. Eleanor's smile was soft, genuine. She had flour in her hair and probably didn't realize how beautiful she looked in his kitchen, making his daughter laugh. Cassandra would never have flour in her hair. Cassandra would have hired a professional baker. Why was he comparing them? Daddy, Ellie taught me to measure ingredients. Sophie held up a measuring cup proudly. We're doing fractions. Educational baking, Eleanor said with mock seriousness. I'm very professional. Theodore found himself smiling. Actually smiling. I can see that. Later, after Sophie was in bed, he found Eleanor cleaning the kitchen disaster. You don't have to do that. Mrs. Chen will handle it tomorrow. I made the mess, I'll clean it. She scrubbed at a stubborn spot of dough on the counter. Besides, I stress clean. It's therapeutic. What are you stressed about? She paused, then shrugged. Just at making sure Sophie's okay while you're gone. It's a lot of responsibility. I trust you. The words came easily because they were true. More than I've trusted anyone in a long time. Eleanor's hands stilled. Thank you, that means a lot. They cleaned in comfortable silence until Theodore finally asked, Can I ask you something personal? I guess. Why did you become a nanny? You're clearly intelligent, capable. You could do anything. Eleanor's expression shifted, something guarded entering her eyes. I love working with children. It's rewarding. That's not an answer, she sighed, leaning against the counter. My ex used to say I was wasting my potential, that being a nanny wasn't a real career, that I should want more, be more ambitious. Her voice went quiet. He made me feel small for doing something I love. Theodore felt anger flash through him. He was an idiot. He was doing something. She smiled sadly. But it made me doubt myself, wonder if he was right. If I should want a bigger life. Do you want that? I want to matter, to make a difference. Maybe not on a corporate scale like you do, but in individual lives. She met his eyes. I think helping raise good humans is pretty important, actually. It's the most important job there is. Theodore stepped closer without thinking. And anyone who made you feel otherwise didn't deserve you. The air between them felt charged. Eleanor's breath caught. Theodore realized how close he was standing, close enough to see the silver flecks in her grey eyes, close enough to count the faint freckles across her nose. Close enough to... His phone rang, shattering the moment. Cassandra's name flashed on the screen. Eleanor immediately busied herself with wiping already clean counters. You should get that. Theodore declined the call. It can wait. It's late, I should go anyway. She gathered her things quickly, not meeting his eyes. Sophie's bedtime routine is written down. Emergency contacts are on the fridge. Her doctor's information is... Eleanor. She stopped, hand on the door. Thank you. For tonight. For the cookies. For caring about her. That's my job, she said softly. No. Your job is to supervise her. Caring is something else entirely. She looked at him then, and Theodore saw something vulnerable in her expression, something that mirrored the confusion he felt. Good night, Theodore. After she left, he stood in his kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of her presence, the lingering scent of vanilla, the cookies cooling on the rack, the sound of his daughter's laughter still echoing in his memory. His phone buzzed again. Cassandra. Dinner Thursday? Would love to discuss the venture more. He should say yes. Cassandra was suitable, appropriate, from his world. She understood his life in ways Eleanor never could, but when he closed his eyes, he didn't see Cassandra's polished sophistication. He saw Eleanor covered in flour, making his daughter laugh, Eleanor defending her career choice with quiet dignity, Eleanor looking at him like he was more than just a CEO, like he was a person worth knowing. Theodore typed a response to Cassandra. Let me check my schedule and get back to you. Then he went upstairs, stood outside Sophie's room, and made a decision. He was going to Tokyo. He was going to focus on work. And when he came back, he was going to figure out what the hell he was feeling. Because ignoring it clearly wasn't working. Eleanor moved into the Walsh Mansion's guest room 2 days before Theodore's departure. The room was larger than her entire apartment, with its own bathroom and a view of the gardens. She felt like an imposter touching the Egyptian cotton sheets and using the marble shower. Sophie was delighted. It's like a sleepover every night. Theodore seemed tense. He kept appearing in doorways, watching Eleanor settle in, then disappearing without explanation. Your dad seems stressed about the trip, Eleanor mentioned to Sophie while they colored. Daddy's always stressed. Except when you're here. Then he smiles more. Sophie didn't look up from her drawing. Did you know he watches you sometimes? Eleanor's crayon skidded across the page. What? When you're not looking. He stares at you like he's trying to figure out a puzzle. Sophie's matter-of-fact tone made it worse. Grandma Emma used to say Daddy was bad at feelings. I think she was right. Before Eleanor could process that, the doorbell rang. She opened it to find a stunning woman in a burgundy dress, holding a bottle of wine. Oh, hello. The woman's smile was polite but assessing. I'm Cassandra Price. I'm here to see Theodore. We have a dinner meeting. He didn't mention... Eleanor started, but Theodore appeared behind her. Cassandra, you're early. Fashionably so. Cassandra stepped inside like she belonged there. I thought we could have drinks before dinner. And I'd love to meet your daughter. Her eyes found Sophie peeking from the living room. This must be Sophie. Sophie studied Cassandra with the critical eye of a general inspecting troops. You're really tall. And you're quite observant. Cassandra laughed. Your father tells me you're brilliant. I am. Are you Daddy's girlfriend? Eleanor choked on air. Theodore looked mortified. Sophie, it's a valid question. Cassandra's smile turned sly. Not yet. But we're old friends catching up. That not yet stabbed into Eleanor's chest like a knife. She suddenly felt invisible in her jeans and oversized sweater, watching this sophisticated woman charm her way into Theodore's life. I should let you two catch up, Eleanor said, forcing brightness into her voice. Sophie and I were just finishing homework anyway. Actually, I was hoping Eleanor could join us for drinks, Theodore said, his tone careful. Since she's living here temporarily, it seems appropriate to include her. Cassandra's smile tightened fractionally. Of course. The more the merrier. It was the most awkward hour of Eleanor's life. Cassandra regaled them with stories of London, name-dropping celebrities and politicians. She and Theodore reminisced about their early business days, inside jokes Eleanor couldn't understand. Sophie grew bored and wandered off to play. Remember that conference in Singapore? Cassandra touched Theodore's arm. When we accidentally got locked in the convention center overnight? We survived on vending machine coffee and your terrible PowerPoint jokes. They laughed together, a shared history Eleanor could never be part of. She felt herself shrinking, becoming invisible, the nanny, the help, the girl from a different world. I should check on Sophie, Eleanor mumbled, standing quickly. Eleanor, you don't have to... Theodore started, but Cassandra cut him off. She's probably tired. It must be exhausting, caring for a child all day. The sympathy was genuine, which somehow made it worse. Eleanor escaped upstairs, her chest tight with feelings she had no right to feel. Jealousy, inadequacy, hurt. Sophie found her in the guest room. I don't like her. Sophie, that's not nice. It's true, though. She keeps touching Daddy and laughing too loud. It's fake. Sophie climbed onto the bed beside her. You're prettier anyway. Eleanor hugged her. You're sweet, but I'm not. Your dad and I aren't. We're not anything. Yet, Sophie said wisely, sounding far older than 6. Grandma Emma used to say patience is important. I'm being patient. You should too. After Sophie went to bed, Eleanor heard voices in the foyer. Cassandra's goodbye was taking forever. She peeked out her door and immediately regretted it. Cassandra stood close to Theodore, her hand on his chest. I've missed this, missed you. Working together again feels right, doesn't it? It's been nice catching up. Theodore. Cassandra's voice dropped intimately. We were always good together, professionally and otherwise. I know I left, but I'm here now and you're available now. She leaned closer. Just think about it while you're in Tokyo. What we could have. Eleanor closed her door quietly, heart hammering. She had no claim on Theodore, no right to feel this crushing disappointment. He was allowed to have romance, to move on with someone from his world, someone who wasn't the babysitter. The next morning, Eleanor was determinedly cheerful over breakfast. Theodore kept staring at her like he wanted to say something. She avoided his eyes. I'll be leaving for the airport in an hour, he finally said. My flight is at 2. Sophie and I will be fine. We have plans. Lots of plans. Eleanor's smile was brittle. You focus on your meetings. About last night, none of my business. She stood abruptly, clearing plates that didn't need clearing. Cassandra seems wonderful, accomplished, perfect for whatever you're planning. Eleanor, Cassandra and I aren't... Daddy, come see my goodbye present. Sophie's voice saved Eleanor from hearing whatever he was going to say. In Sophie's room, she'd made a card covered in glitter and drawings. So you won't forget us, she announced solemnly. Theodore knelt down, genuinely moved. I could never forget you, either of you. His eyes found Eleanor's over Sophie's head. Eleanor looked away first. An hour later, Theodore loaded his luggage into the town car. He hugged Sophie fiercely, promising video calls every day. Then he turned to Eleanor. Thank you, he said quietly. For everything. It's my job. It's more than that. You know it is. His eyes searched her face. When I get back, we need to talk. About what? About Cassandra? About professional boundaries? About how Eleanor had somehow broken the cardinal rule and fallen for her employer? Safe travels, she managed. She watched the car disappear down the driveway, Sophie waving frantically. When it was gone, Eleanor felt the loss like a physical ache. 10 days. She could handle 10 days. She just had to remember. Theodore Walsh was her boss. Cassandra Price was probably his future. And Eleanor Turner was just the help, no matter how much her heart was starting to argue otherwise. Tokyo was impressive. The meetings were productive. The negotiations were going better than expected. Theodore should have been focused, energized, in his element. Instead, he kept checking his phone like a teenager waiting for a text. "You've looked at that thing 17 times in the last hour," Marcus observed during a break between meetings. He joined Theodore for the Tokyo trip as usual. "Missing someone." "Sophie, I'm checking on Sophie." "Right, Sophie. Not her ridiculously attractive babysitter who you can't stop thinking about," Theodore glared. "I'm not." His phone buzzed. A photo from Eleanor, Sophie at the park, mid-laugh on a swing, her hair flying. The caption read, "She demanded I push her to the moon. We compromised on very high." Theodore smiled before he could stop himself. "Oh man, you got it bad." Marcus leaned over to see. "That's adorable, though. Eleanor seems to really care about her." "She does." Theodore studied the photo, zooming in on Sophie's joy. In the background, he could see Eleanor's shadow. She'd been the one pushing. "I made the right choice hiring her." "Is that all she is? An employee?" Theodore didn't answer because he didn't trust what might come out. That night, he video-called Sophie at her bedtime. Eleanor appeared on screen first, setting up the iPad, and Theodore's breath caught. She wore an oversized t-shirt, her hair in a messy bun, no makeup. She looked soft and real and nothing like the polished women he usually encountered. "Hi, Mr. Walsh." Sophie brushed her teeth without being asked. "I think she's been replaced by an alien." "I heard that." Sophie bounded into view, freshly scrubbed and wearing princess pajamas. "Daddy, we went to the zoo today. Ellie knew all the animal names, even the weird ones." "Tapirs," Eleanor corrected from off-screen. "They're not weird, they're majestic. They look like weird pigs." Theodore found himself laughing, the stress of the day melting away. "Tell me everything." Sophie launched into an elaborate story involving elephants, her lost shoe, and Eleanor heroically retrieving it from the monkey enclosure. And then Ellie had to talk to the zookeeper, and he thought she was funny and gave us free ice cream. Something twisted in Theodore's gut. The zookeeper thought she was funny? Yeah. He had big muscles and kept smiling at her. It was gross. Eleanor reappeared, blushing. He was being friendly, that's all. "He asked for her number," Sophie announced gleefully. But Ellie said no because she said she was... "What did you say?" "Sophie..." Eleanor's face went scarlet. "She said she was emotionally unavailable." "What does that mean?" Theodore's heart did something complicated. "It means... It's time for bed, Sophie. I'll call tomorrow, okay?" After Sophie said goodnight and ran off, Eleanor was still there, avoiding the camera. "Sorry about the zookeeper thing. Sophie's exaggerating. He was just..." "You said no." "Of course I said no. I'm working. I can't just..." She stopped, finally meeting his eyes through the screen. "It wouldn't be appropriate." The air between them felt heavy despite the thousands of miles. "Right. Appropriate. How's Tokyo?" "Productive. Busy. I miss..." He stopped. "I miss home." "Sophie misses you too." That wasn't what he'd meant, but he let it go. After hanging up, Theodore sat in his hotel room, staring at the Tokyo skyline and feeling more alone than he had in years. His phone buzzed. "Cassandra. How's Japan? I've been thinking about our conversation, about us working together again. It feels like destiny, doesn't it?" Before he could respond, another message. "I know you need time, but I'm not going anywhere this time. I promise." Theodore deleted both messages without responding. Back in the mansion, Eleanor couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the video call. The way Theodore's eyes had darkened when Sophie mentioned the zookeeper, the way he'd said he missed home, or had he been about to say something else? Her phone rang. Her grandmother, naturally. "It's midnight, Grandma. And you're awake, so clearly something's bothering you. Spill." Eleanor told her about Cassandra's visit. The sophisticated, perfect for Theodore woman who probably wore designer pajamas and never got flour in her hair. So this Cassandra woman wants him back, her grandmother mused, and you're just going to let her have him? He's not mine to fight for. Isn't he, though? You're living in his house, taking care of his daughter, making him smile for the first time in years, according to what you've told me. Her grandmother's voice softened. Sweetie, love doesn't care about tax brackets or job titles. If you have feelings for this man, fight for him. I don't know how. You're creative. You'll figure it out. The next morning, Eleanor's phone showed 3 missed calls from Cassandra. 3 voicemails asking Eleanor to pass along a message to Theodore about dinner plans when he returns. Eleanor listened to each one, deleted them all, and felt only slightly guilty. When Cassandra showed up at the house that afternoon with documents for Theodore, Eleanor was ready. He's in Tokyo, Eleanor said sweetly at the door. All week. I know. But I thought I'd drop these off, and perhaps you could give me his hotel information. I'd love to surprise him with dinner. I don't think that's appropriate, professional boundaries and all. Cassandra's smile sharpened. You're very protective of him. One might think you have personal investment in keeping people away. One might think you're overstepping by showing up unannounced at his home. Eleanor's smile matched hers. If it's business, send it through his office. If it's personal, wait until he returns. Either way, I can't help you. After Cassandra left, Sophie appeared. I don't like her. Join the club, kiddo. Are you and Daddy going to get married? Eleanor choked on her coffee. What? No. Sophie, your dad and I, we're not, but you like him and he likes you, I can tell. Sometimes adults are friends without being romantic. Sophie considered this seriously. That's boring. I like romance better, like in movies. Real life isn't like movies, sweetie. Maybe it should be, Sophie said wisely. Movies are more fun. That night's video call was interrupted 3 times by Sophie accidentally leaving Eleanor and Theodore alone on screen. The 3rd time, they both laughed. She's not subtle, Theodore observed. She's 6. Subtle isn't in her vocabulary. A pause. Then, how are you, really? The question caught Eleanor off guard. I'm fine, why? You look tired. Gee, thanks. I didn't mean... He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I meant I worry about you, both of you, whether you need anything. We're okay. Good, actually. She smiled softly. Don't worry about us. Focus on your meetings. I can't stop worrying. It's becoming a problem. Eleanor's heart skipped. What do you mean? Before he could answer, Marcus appeared behind him. Walsh, dinner meeting in 10. The moment shattered. I have to go. Tokyo calls. Go make your empire bigger. After he signed off, Eleanor sat in the quiet mansion and admitted to herself what she'd been denying. She was falling in love with Theodore Walsh, and she had absolutely no idea what to do about it. Theodore's plane landed 3 hours early due to favorable winds. He should have gone straight to the office. Marcus was already there, handling the follow-up emails. Instead, he directed his driver to the mansion. He told himself it was to surprise Sophie. That was a lie, and he knew it. He wanted to see Eleanor. The house was quiet when he entered at 10 a.m. Following the sound of laughter, he found them in the backyard. Sophie was teaching Eleanor to do cartwheels, which apparently involved a lot of falling and giggling. Eleanor's jeans had grass stains. Her t-shirt was twisted. Her hair escaped its ponytail in every direction. She looked nothing like the put-together woman he'd hired. She looked perfect. Daddy! Sophie spotted him first, launching herself into his arms. You're home early. Ellie, he's home. Eleanor scrambled to her feet, brushing grass from her clothes. Her smile was bright, but something flickered in her eyes. Nervousness? Welcome back. How was Tokyo? Productive. He couldn't stop staring at her. I see you've been keeping busy. Sophie's become a gymnast, or she's trying to kill me. One of the two. Both, Sophie declared proudly. Inside, over coffee, while Sophie played upstairs, Theodore found himself cataloguing every detail he'd missed. The way Eleanor wrapped both hands around her mug, the tiny scar on her left eyebrow, the way she hummed unconsciously when she was comfortable. You're staring, she said without looking up. Am I? You do that sometimes. Stare. Like you're trying to memorize something. Maybe I am. The words came out before he could stop them. Eleanor's eyes snapped to his, wide and uncertain. Theodore... His phone rang. Cassandra. Again. 5th time since he'd landed. Eleanor's expression shuttered immediately. You should get that. Might be important. He declined the call. It's not. It's Cassandra. She's been calling a lot about dinner plans. Eleanor stood abruptly. She's very persistent. Eleanor! I should start lunch. Sophie gets cranky when she's hungry. You probably have jet lag. You should rest. She practically fled to the kitchen. Theodore followed, catching her wrist gently. Stop running from me. I'm not. You are. You've been doing it since before I left. He turned her to face him, not releasing her wrist. Talk to me. There's nothing to talk about. You're my employer. I'm your employee. Cassandra she's someone from your world who makes sense. I'm just... Her voice cracked. I should remember my place. Your place? Anger flared. Where exactly do you think your place is? I'm the help, Theodore. I take care of your daughter for money. Cassandra runs companies and wears designer suits and belongs in your life. The words burst out. I'm nobody. Don't. His voice went dangerously quiet. Don't you dare diminish yourself like that. It's the truth. The truth is that you've made my daughter happier than she's been in 3 years. The truth is, I couldn't focus on meetings because I kept thinking about your laugh. The truth is, Cassandra called 15 times during my trip and I answered exactly none of them because I was too busy waiting for photos from you. He stepped closer, backing her against the counter. The truth is, I came home early because 10 days away from you felt like torture. Eleanor's breath hitched. You don't mean that. I mean every word. His hands found her face, thumbs brushing her cheeks. I've been lying to myself for weeks, telling myself these feelings weren't real, that I was just grateful, that it would pass. His forehead touched hers. It's not passing, Eleanor. It's getting worse. Theodore, we can't. Why not? Because I'll lose my job. Because your board will hate me. Because Cassandra is perfect for you and I'm just... He kissed her, gentle and desperate all at once, cutting off her protests. Her hands gripped his shirt, and for 3 perfect seconds, she kissed him back. Then she shoved him away, eyes wide with panic. No, we can't do this. Eleanor, I need to think. She grabbed her purse. I'm taking my lunch break. I'll be back in an hour. She was gone before he could stop her. Sophie appeared in the doorway, cereal bowl in hand. Did you kiss her? Theodore slumped against the counter. Yes. Finally. Did she like it? I don't think so. She ran away. Sophie patted his arm sympathetically. Girls are confusing, Daddy. But don't worry, she likes you. She gets all smiley when I talk about you. And she deleted all of Cassandra's messages. His head snapped up. What? Cassandra kept calling the house. Ellie listened to the messages and deleted every single one. Sophie said this like reporting the weather. I asked why and she said because some people don't know when to take a hint. I think she was jealous. Theodore's heart soared. You're sure? Super sure. She also told her friend on the phone that Cassandra was an annoying, sophisticated witch. Sophie whispered the last word, like it was scandalous. Except she didn't say witch. She said the bad B word that I'm not allowed to say. Sophie, I know, we don't repeat bad words, but Daddy, she likes you. Likes you. You just need to prove you like her back. I kissed her. How much more proof? Grown-ups need more than kisses. They need words and stuff. Sophie rolled her eyes. Trust me. I watch romance movies with Ellie. You need a big gesture. An hour later, Eleanor returned to find Theodore in the living room, laptop open, looking determined. We need to talk, he said. Theodore, about earlier. I'm sorry for kissing you without permission. That was inappropriate. He stood, putting distance between them. Professional distance. But I'm not sorry for what I said. I meant it. All of it. Eleanor wrapped her arms around herself. This is impossible. You know that, right? I'm your employee. The power dynamic alone. Then you're fired. She blinked. What? You're fired. Effective immediately. I'll give you 3 months severance, excellent references, whatever you need. He crossed his arms. There. No more employee. No more power dynamic. Now can we talk about this like 2 people who have feelings for each other? You can't just fire me. I can, and I did. Mrs. Chen can handle Sophie until I hire someone else. Sophie needs me. I need you. The confession came rough. And I'm tired of pretending I don't. Eleanor stared at him, emotions warring across her face. You're insane. Probably, but I'm also serious. He stepped closer, giving her space to retreat if she wanted. She didn't. Tell me you don't feel this. Tell me I'm imagining it. Tell me to leave you alone, and I will. But if there's any chance... She kissed him, rose on her toes and pulled him down and kissed him like her life depended on it. The kiss ended when they both needed air. Eleanor pulled back, hands still fisted in Theodore's shirt, her lips swollen and eyes dazed. "Oh my God," she whispered. "I just kissed my boss. Ex-boss, I fired you, remember? You can't fire me just to date me. That's... She stepped back, running hands through her hair. "That's completely insane. Finally!" Sophie's cheer echoed from the staircase where she'd clearly been spying. "Can we have cake to celebrate?" "Sophie, room, now." Theodore's dad voice was firm. "But, now!" Sophie disappeared, but her delighted laughter carried down the hallway. Eleanor paced the living room like a caged animal. "This is a disaster. Your daughter just saw us kissing. I'm supposed to be her caregiver, not what? Someone I care about?" Theodore caught her hand, stopping her frantic movement. "Eleanor, look at me." She did, reluctantly. Her eyes were wide with panic and something else. Hope, maybe. Fear, definitely. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted quietly. "I've never been in a situation like this. You're Theodore Walsh. You own half the companies in this city. I take care of children for a living. We don't make sense." "We make perfect sense." He pulled her closer, his voice gentle. "You make me laugh. You make Sophie laugh. You challenge me. You see me as a person, not a bank account or a business opportunity. Cassandra sees you as a person. Cassandra sees me as a strategic acquisition." Theodore's thumb traced circles on her wrist. "There's a difference. She's beautiful, successful, from your world, and you're kind, genuine, real." His free hand cupped her face. "I don't want someone from my world, Eleanor. I want someone who makes me want to come home." Her breath caught. Before she could respond, the doorbell rang. They both jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Mrs. Chen appeared from the kitchen. "I'll get it." Moments later, Cassandra swept into the living room in a cream pantsuit, looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine. She stopped short seeing them standing so close together. "Theodore, you're back early." Her smile was practiced. "I've been trying to reach you." "I've been busy." He didn't move away from Eleanor, a statement in itself. Cassandra's eyes flicked between them, assessing. "I see. Well, I won't interrupt long. I just wanted to finalize our dinner plans, to discuss the venture. Actually, Cassandra, I've been thinking about that." Theodore's hand found Eleanor's, lacing their fingers together. The gesture wasn't lost on anyone. "The venture is solid, but I think it's best if we keep our relationship purely professional." "Our relationship is professional, is it?" He raised an eyebrow. "Because showing up at my house unannounced, calling 15 times during my business trip, and constantly mentioning what we could have doesn't feel professional." Cassandra's composure cracked. "I came back for you. I've waited 8 years. I didn't ask you to wait. I didn't ask you to come back." His voice was firm but not unkind. "You're a brilliant businesswoman and I'd be happy to partner with your company. But anything personal, that's not happening." Eleanor tried to extract her hand. Theodore held firm. "Because of her?" Cassandra's laugh was sharp. "Theodore, be realistic. She's your employee. What will the board say? Your investors? The media? I don't care." The simplicity of the statement hung in the air. "And she's not my employee anymore." "You fired her." Cassandra looked genuinely shocked. "That's even worse. The power dynamic is none of your business." Theodore's voice went cold. "I think you should go." After Cassandra left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frames, Eleanor sank onto the couch. "She's right. The board will have a field day. The media will crucify you. Dating the nanny is like a bad movie plot. I don't care about the board." "But I do." She stood again, agitated. "I care that this could hurt your reputation, your company, Sophie." Her voice broke on the last word. "What if people think I'm some gold digger who manipulated my way into your life? Anyone who knows you would never think that. But they don't know me. They'll see a 28-year-old nanny who suddenly starts dating her billionaire employer, and they'll assume the worst." Tears gathered in her eyes. "My ex already made me feel worthless for being a nanny. I can't be that person everyone whispers about." Theodore crossed to her, gripping her shoulders gently. Then we'll prove them wrong, together. How? I don't know yet, but I know I'm not letting you go because of what other people might think. His forehead touched hers. Unless you want me to. If this isn't what you want, if I'm not what you want, tell me now. Eleanor's hands came up to his chest, feeling his heartbeat racing under her palms. You terrify me. Good. You terrify me too. That's not romantic. It's honest. He smiled slightly. I haven't felt anything in 3 years. Now I feel everything. It's terrifying and wonderful and completely insane. What about Emma? The question came soft. The promise you made? Theodore was quiet for a long moment. I've been thinking about that a lot, and I realized I don't think Emma wanted me to be alone forever. She wanted Sophie to be loved and cared for. She wanted me to be happy. His voice roughened. And you make me happy, you make us both happy. I'm scared, Eleanor whispered. Me too. This could blow up in our faces. Probably will. The board might revolt. Let them. Eleanor laughed despite herself. Watery, but real. You're completely crazy. Certifiably. He kissed her forehead, then her nose, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. But I'm crazy about you. That was a terrible line. I'm out of practice. Give me a break. She pulled back to look at him. Really look at him. Theodore Walsh, billionaire CEO, looking at her like she hung the moon. It was ridiculous. Impossible. Terrifying. And maybe, just maybe, exactly what she wanted. Okay, she whispered. Okay, let's try this. But we go slow. And if it gets too complicated... He kissed her, cutting off her escape clauses. It's already complicated, might as well enjoy it. From the top of the stairs, Sophie's voice rang out. Does this mean Ellie's my new mom? They broke apart, both shouting, Sophie! We need a strategy, Marcus said the next morning, dropping a stack of tabloids on Theodore's desk. Because this is already happening. The headlines were brutal. Walsh heir dates the help. CEO's grief-stricken romance with daughter's nanny. Billionaire's rebound. Employee or gold digger. Someone had photographed them through the living room window. The image showed Theodore's hand on Eleanor's face, the intimacy of their stance unmistakable. How did they... Theodore's jaw clenched. My bet? Cassandra. Woman scorned and all that. Marcus leaned against the desk. The board's already calling an emergency meeting. They want damage control. There's no damage to control. Theo, they're going to demand you end this. For the company's image, for the upcoming merger. Marcus's expression was sympathetic. I'm on your side, but you need to be prepared for a fight. Theodore studied the photos. Eleanor looked beautiful, vulnerable, real. Everything the board would hate. Everything he loved. Then we fight. Meanwhile, Eleanor sat in her grandmother's kitchen, the same tabloid spread before her. Her grandmother had called at dawn, voice vibrating with excitement. My granddaughter is famous. Infamous, Grandma. There's a difference. Psh! Any publicity is good publicity. Her grandmother patted her hand. But seriously, sweetie, how are you handling this? I'm terrified. Eleanor pushed away her untouched coffee. They're calling me a gold digger, saying I seduced him for his money. One article suggested I deliberately targeted him through Sophie. And what does Theodore say? That he doesn't care what they think, that we'll get through it together. She laughed bitterly. Easy for him to say. He's Theodore Walsh. I'm just... Stop. Her grandmother's voice was firm. You're Eleanor Turner. You're smart, kind, and good enough for any man, billionaire or not. Don't you dare let some trashy headlines make you forget that. His board wants him to end it. Then he'll tell them no. You don't know that. Her grandmother smiled knowingly. I've seen how he looks at you in those photos, honey. That man is smitten. The board can go jump in a lake. The board meeting was exactly as brutal as Marcus predicted. 12 men and women in expensive suits, all looking at Theodore like he'd lost his mind. This relationship is inappropriate, Gerald Martin, the lead director, announced. The optics alone are none of your concern. Theodore remained standing, refusing to be intimidated. My personal life doesn't affect my ability to run this company. It affects the company's reputation. Our investors are concerned. The Yamamoto merger could be jeopardized if they perceive instability in leadership. There is no instability. I'm in a relationship. That's not a scandal. With your daughter's caregiver, another board member interjected. The power dynamics are questionable at best. She's no longer my employee. Even worse, you fired her to date her. That opens us up to lawsuits, harassment claims. She won't sue. Theodore's voice was flat. Because it was mutual, because we're adults making adult decisions, because my personal life is my own. Not when you're the face of this company. Gerald stood, arms crossed. Theodore, we respect you. You've built this empire through hard work and integrity. But this woman, her name is Eleanor, could destroy everything you've built. We're asking you to reconsider, for the good of the company. And if I refuse? The silence was heavy. Then we'll be forced to call a vote of no confidence, Gerald said quietly. We don't want to, but we will protect this company. Theodore looked at each board member in turn. People he'd worked with for years. People who'd supported him through Emma's death. People who were now asking him to choose between his company and his heart. You're asking me to give up my personal happiness for business? We're asking you to be practical. This relationship is a liability. No. Theodore's voice was steel. Eleanor is the best thing that's happened to my family in 3 years. She makes my daughter happy. She makes me happy. And I will not sacrifice that because you're worried about optics. Then you leave us no choice. Actually, you do have a choice. Marcus stood from where he'd been sitting quietly. You can support Theodore. You can show the world that this company values people over perception, or you can force a vote and watch this become an even bigger story when the media finds out you're trying to control your CEO's love life. This isn't about love. This is about business. Then let's talk business. Theodore pulled out his phone, displaying recent quarterly reports. Profits are up 23%. We've secured the Yamamoto merger. I have their written commitment. Employee satisfaction is at an all-time high. Every metric that matters shows this company is thriving under my leadership. He set the phone down. Fire me if you want, but you'll be making the biggest mistake of your careers. The board members exchanged glances. We need to discuss this privately, Gerald finally said. You have 24 hours. Theodore buttoned his suit jacket. After that, my decision stands regardless of yours. Outside the boardroom, Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. That was either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Both, probably. Theodore pulled out his phone, seeing 3 missed calls from Eleanor. I need to talk to her. He found Eleanor at the mansion, packing her things with shaking hands. Sophie sat on the bed, crying. What are you doing? Theodore's heart dropped. Leaving. Eleanor wouldn't meet his eyes. I saw the news about the board meeting. I can't let you lose your company because of me. You're not making me lose anything. Theodore, they're going to vote you out. Everything you've built means nothing without you. He crossed the room, taking the clothes from her hands. Eleanor, look at me. She did, tears streaming down her face. I'm not worth losing your company. You're worth everything. He cupped her face, thumbs wiping away tears. And I'm not losing the company. I'm choosing you. There's a difference. You can't choose me over your life's work. Watch me. Sophie wiped her eyes and stood on the bed, hands on her hips. Ellie, if you leave, I'm going on strike. Sophie, Eleanor started. No, I'll refuse to eat vegetables. I'll wear pajamas to school. I'll put spiders in everyone's desks. I'll be the worst kid ever until you come back. Despite everything, Eleanor laughed through her tears. That's terrible negotiating. It's effective negotiating, Theodore corrected, fighting his own smile. She learned from the best. The doorbell interrupted them. Mrs. Chen appeared moments later. Mr. Walsh, there are reporters outside. Quite a few of them. Theodore's expression hardened. Stay here. Both of you. But Eleanor followed him downstairs, ignoring his protests. Through the front window, she could see at least 20 reporters with cameras and microphones crowding the driveway. Mr. Walsh, is it true the board is voting you out? Are you choosing your girlfriend over your company? What does your late wife's family think about this relationship? Theodore's jaw clenched. He reached for the door handle. Eleanor caught his arm. Don't. They'll twist whatever you say. I'm not hiding. I'm not asking you to hide. I'm asking you to be smart. She squeezed his hand. Please. His phone rang. Marcus, don't go outside. I'm handling it. Handling what? Just watch the news. Channel 7. Theodore turned on the TV just as Marcus appeared on screen, standing in front of the company headquarters with a prepared statement. Good afternoon. I'm Marcus Chen, Chief Operating Officer of Walsh Enterprises. I'm here to address the recent speculation about Theodore Walsh and his personal life. Marcus looked directly into the camera. Theodore Walsh is the most dedicated, ethical CEO I've ever worked with. His personal relationship with Eleanor Turner is exactly that, personal. It doesn't affect his leadership, his judgment, or his commitment to this company. A reporter shouted, "But the board is calling a vote of no confidence." The board is entitled to their concerns. However, I want to make something clear. Marcus's expression turned steely. If the board votes out Theodore Walsh because he dared to find happiness after years of grief, then they're not voting based on business metrics. They're voting based on outdated social prejudices. And I, for one, will resign in protest. The crowd murmured. Another voice. You'd leave the company? Without hesitation. Theodore Walsh built this company from nothing. He deserves our loyalty, not our judgment. Marcus paused. And frankly, Eleanor Turner seems like a wonderful person who makes him and his daughter happy. That should be celebrated, not condemned. Theodore stared at the screen, something raw crossing his face. Eleanor squeezed his hand. He really is your best friend. Yeah, he really is. His phone exploded with notifications. The first was from Gerald Martin. Emergency board meeting cancelled. We need to talk. In person. The second was from the Yamamoto representative. Saw the news. Glad you're fighting for love. My wife was my secretary. Married 40 years now. You have my full support on the merger. The third was from an unknown number. This is Victoria Sterling. I was wrong about Eleanor. She's clearly good for you. I'm sorry for causing trouble. V. More messages flooded in. Business partners expressing support. Investors impressed by his conviction. Even a few board members privately apologizing. The internet is exploding, Sophie announced from the stairs, holding Mrs. Chen's iPad. You're trending. People are calling it the Walsh love story. Some lady made a petition supporting you. It has 50,000 signatures already. Eleanor looked at Theodore. How is this happening? Because people love an underdog story, Marcus said, letting himself in through the back door. And nothing says underdog like a billionaire fighting his own board for love. That's not... It absolutely is, and it's working. Marcus grinned. The PR firm says public sentiment is 90% in your favor. The board would be insane to vote you out now. Theodore's phone rang again. Gerald Martin this time. He put it on speaker. Theodore, the board has reconvened. We've decided we may have overreacted. Gerald's voice was stiff but sincere. Your personal life is your business. As long as it doesn't affect company performance, which clearly it hasn't, we have no grounds to interfere. So no vote. No vote. You have our support, conditional support, but support nonetheless. After hanging up, Theodore turned to Eleanor, who stood frozen in shock. So, he said carefully, still planning to leave? She looked at Sophie's hopeful face, at Marcus's knowing grin, at Mrs. Chen dabbing her eyes in the doorway, at Theodore, watching her like she held his entire world in her hands. I must be as crazy as you are, she whispered. Is that a yes? That's a, we're going to talk about boundaries and expectations and what this actually means. I'll take it. He pulled her close, not quite kissing her, but close enough that Sophie squealed with delight. Does this mean we can finally tell Grandma we're officially together? Sophie demanded. Eleanor laughed. Grandma already knows, trust me. As if summoned, Eleanor's phone rang. Her grandmother's voice boomed through. I saw the news. My granddaughter is trending. Outside, the reporters were finally dispersing. Inside, Sophie was planning their official relationship celebration dinner with Mrs. Chen. Marcus was fielding calls from the PR team, and Theodore was holding Eleanor's hand like he'd never let go. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For staying. For fighting. For being brave when I know you're terrified. Eleanor leaned her head against his shoulder. We're both terrified. Might as well be terrified together. That's the most romantic thing you've ever said to me. Shut up. He laughed, and she felt it rumble through his chest. Maybe this could actually work. 3 months later, Eleanor's life had transformed in ways she never imagined. She'd officially moved into the mansion, in her own room, much to Sophie's dramatic disappointment. Theodore insisted on propriety, at least publicly. I'm already the CEO who dated the nanny, he'd said. Let's not add living in sin to the headlines. But propriety didn't stop the stolen kisses in the kitchen, the lingering touches when Sophie wasn't looking, the way Theodore found excuses to be wherever Eleanor was. You're staring again, Eleanor said, without looking up from helping Sophie with math homework. Can't help it. You're very stare-worthy. That's not a word, Daddy, Sophie announced. But it should be, because Ellie is very stare-worthy. Marcus had become a regular dinner guest, mostly to provide comedy relief. So when's the wedding? He asked one evening, making Theodore choke on his wine. Marcus, what? It's a valid question. You're basically already married. You coordinate schedules. You co-parent. You finish each other's sentences. The only thing missing is the legal paperwork. Eleanor felt her face heat. She and Theodore had been careful not to rush things. They'd been on actual dates, restaurants, movies, a disastrous mini-golf outing where Sophie had beaten them both. They held hands. They kissed goodnight at her bedroom door like teenagers. But they hadn't discussed the future beyond, let's take this one day at a time. We've only been official for 3 months, Eleanor said. My parents got engaged after 6 weeks. Married 42 years now. Marcus shrugged. When you know, you know. Later, after Sophie was asleep and Marcus had left, Theodore found Eleanor on the back patio, wrapped in a blanket and staring at the stars. Sorry about Marcus. He means well. He's right, though. Eleanor pulled the blanket tighter. We can't live in limbo forever. Theodore sat beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. What do you want, Eleanor? Honestly. I want... She stopped. What did she want? I want to stop feeling like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, like one day you'll wake up and realize this was a mistake. That's not going to happen. You don't know that. I do. He turned her face toward him. I love you. I've loved you since you dumped grape juice on Victoria. Maybe even before that. Eleanor's breath caught. He'd never said it before. Not like that. Not so plainly. You love me? Completely. Terrifyingly. Inconveniently. He smiled. I love how you make Sophie laugh. I love how you challenge me. I love your terrible jokes and your ridiculous optimism and the way you hum when you cook. I don't hum. You absolutely hum. It's adorable. His thumb traced her jaw. I love that you see me as Theodore, not as Theodore Walsh, CEO. You don't care about my money or my status. You care about me. Eleanor felt tears building. I love you too. I've been terrified to say it because what if... He kissed her. Soft and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Eleanor whispered, What happens now? Now we stop being scared. We trust this. We trust us. He stood, pulling her to her feet. And we go inside before you freeze to death because you're stubborn and refuse to admit you were cold. I'm not cold. Your teeth are chattering. That's just... Okay, I'm freezing. He laughed, wrapping his coat around her shoulders. As they walked inside, his arm around her waist, Eleanor felt something settle in her chest. Peace, certainty, home. The next morning, Theodore's lawyer showed up unannounced. Eleanor's heart sank. What now? But the lawyer simply handed her papers. Mr. Walsh wanted to ensure you're protected. This is a trust in your name irrevocable, regardless of your relationship status. Eleanor stared at the numbers. This is... I can't accept this. You can and you will, Theodore said from the doorway. It's not about us. It's about you having security, independence, so you never feel trapped or obligated. Theodore, I know what your ex did, how he made you feel small. I never want you to feel that way again. He approached slowly. This is yours, no strings. Even if you left tomorrow, which please don't, it's still yours. Eleanor set down the papers and crossed to him, taking his face in her hands. You are the most frustratingly wonderful man I've ever met. Is that a compliment? It's me saying I love you and I'm not going anywhere. Good. He kissed her forehead. Because Sophie's already planning our wedding. Apparently, it involves unicorns and a chocolate fountain. We're not engaged. Not yet. The certainty in his voice made her heart race. From upstairs, Sophie yelled, Are you kissing again? Because if you are, I need to document this for the wedding video. They broke apart, laughing. Our daughter is a menace, Theodore said. Our daughter, Eleanor repeated softly. The phrase felt right. Everything felt right. 2 weeks later, Theodore announced they were going away for the weekend. Just the two of us. Marcus and his wife will stay with Sophie. Eleanor's heart raced. A weekend? Alone? Unless you don't want to. I want to. The words came quickly. I'm just nervous. He pulled her close, his forehead touching hers. Me too. The beach house was stunning, all windows and ocean views. Theodore had planned everything. Champagne chilling, rose petals leading to the bedroom, soft music playing. This is very romantic, Eleanor said, trying to calm her nerves. Did you have help planning this? Sophie made a detailed list. Apparently I'm romantically challenged. He wrapped his arms around her from behind as they watched the sunset. Am I doing okay so far? Better than okay. She leaned back against his chest, feeling his heartbeat. Strong, steady, real. Eleanor. His voice was rough. There's something I need to ask you. She turned in his arms. His expression was vulnerable in a way she'd rarely seen. I know we agreed to take things slow. I know it's only been a few months. I know all the logical reasons to wait. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. But I also know that I don't want to spend another day without you being mine completely. Eleanor's hands flew to her mouth as he knelt on the sand. You walked into my life and changed everything. You made my daughter laugh again. You made me feel again. You challenged me, frustrated me, and made me want to be better. He opened the box, revealing a simple but stunning diamond ring. I love you. Marry me, please. Tears streamed down her face. You're serious. Completely serious. I've never been more serious about anything. His own eyes were suspiciously bright. Say yes, or say no, but please say something because my knees are killing me. She laughed, crying harder. Yes, yes, of course, yes. He stood, sweeping her into his arms and spinning her around. When he set her down, he slid the ring onto her finger with shaking hands. Then he kissed her, deep and desperate and full of promise. I love you, he whispered against her lips. So much. I love you too. She pulled back to look at the ring, then at him. We're engaged. We're engaged. The smile on his face was pure joy. Sophie's going to lose her mind. She knew, didn't she, about tonight? She helped pick the ring. Very opinionated for a 6-year-old. Theodore tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. She also gave me very specific instructions about tonight. What instructions? That I should be romantic but not weird. I'm still not sure what that means. His hands settled on her waist, thumbs stroking gently. And that I should make Ellie happy forever. I think you're doing pretty well so far. Inside the beach house, champagne turned into dinner, which turned into dancing in the living room to music only they could hear. Eleanor felt the weight of the ring on her finger. Solid, real, permanent. What are you thinking? Theodore asked, swaying with her. That this doesn't feel real. That I'm going to wake up and still be just the nanny. You were never just anything. He stopped moving, cupping her face. You're everything. The kiss started soft, but quickly deepened. His hands slid into her hair, hers fisted in his shirt. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were dark with desire. Eleanor. Her name was a question. Yes, she whispered, understanding what he was asking. He lifted her into his arms. She protested weakly that she could walk. He ignored her completely and carried her to the bedroom. The rose petals Sophie had insisted on were scattered across the bed. Our daughter is a romantic, Eleanor said, voice shaky. Our daughter is currently with Marcus, hours away, and we're not thinking about her right now. Theodore set Eleanor down gently, his hands trembling slightly as they found the hem of her shirt. Is this okay? More than okay. She pulled him down for another kiss. I've never been more sure of anything. What followed was tender and passionate, filled with whispered promises and gentle exploration. Theodore took his time, worshipping every inch of her like she was something precious. He asked permission with every touch, watched her face for any hesitation. You're beautiful, he murmured against her skin. So beautiful. Eleanor had never felt more cherished, more desired, more loved. When they finally came together, it was with locked eyes and intertwined fingers, a moment of perfect connection that made tears spring to her eyes. I love you, she gasped. I love you, he echoed, and she felt the truth of it in every movement. Later, wrapped in sheets and each other, Eleanor traced patterns on Theodore's chest. That was, yeah. He kissed her temple. It was. Sophie's going to ask questions tomorrow, isn't she? Absolutely. Very detailed questions. He laughed. We'll tell her we got engaged and leave out the rest. Deal. Eleanor lifted her hand, watching the ring catch the moonlight. I'm engaged to Theodore Walsh. I'm engaged to Eleanor Turner. He caught her hand, kissing the ring. Best decision I ever made. Hiring me or proposing? Both. He pulled her closer. Definitely both. Sophie's scream could probably be heard 3 blocks away. You're getting married? She launched herself at Eleanor and Theodore the moment they walked through the door, nearly knocking them both over. Marcus and his wife stood behind her, grinning. She's been asking every hour when you'd be back, Marcus explained. I thought she might explode from anticipation. Let me see the ring. Let me see. Sophie grabbed Eleanor's hand, studying the diamond with the intensity of a jeweler. It's perfect. I knew Daddy would pick the right one. I told him if he messed it up, I'd never forgive him. Thanks for the pressure, Theodore said dryly. You're welcome. Sophie hugged Eleanor's waist. Does this mean you're officially going to be my mum? Eleanor knelt down to eye level, her throat tight. If you want me to be. I want you to be. I've wanted you to be since the day you wore the princess dress. Sophie's eyes were suspiciously bright. Is that okay? More than okay. Eleanor pulled her into a hug. I love you, Sophie. I love you too. And I love Daddy. And now, we're a real family. The wedding planning was chaos. Sophie had opinions about everything. The flowers, roses and daisies, the cake, chocolate with vanilla frosting, obviously, and most importantly, her role. I'm the flower girl and the ring bearer and the bridesmaid, she announced. I'm doing all the jobs. That's a lot of responsibility, Eleanor said, fighting a smile. I can handle it. I'm very mature for my age. Eleanor's grandmother arrived a week before the wedding, immediately taking over the kitchen and regaling everyone with stories of Eleanor's childhood. She used to line up her stuffed animals and perform wedding ceremonies. I knew she'd find her prince eventually. I'm nobody's prince, Theodore protested. You're my prince, Eleanor said, kissing his cheek, even if you're a grumpy one. I'm not grumpy. You're totally grumpy, Marcus agreed, but you're happy grumpy now, which is an improvement. The wedding was small and intimate, just close friends and family in the mansion's garden. Sophie walked down the aisle first, taking her duties very seriously and scattering petals with precision. When Eleanor appeared, Theodore forgot how to breathe. She wore a simple ivory dress that flowed like water, her hair loose and crowned with flowers. She wasn't trying to be anyone but herself, and she was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. Hi, she whispered when she reached him. Hi. He took her hands, squeezing gently. You're stunning. You're not so bad yourself. The ceremony was perfect. Short, sweet, and interrupted twice by Sophie adding her own commentary. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Theodore kissed Eleanor like they were the only 2 people in the world. Sophie cheered. Finally. Now can we have cake? The reception was filled with laughter, dancing, and terrible speeches from Marcus that had everyone in tears from giggling. Eleanor's grandmother told embarrassing stories. Sophie performed an elaborate interpretive dance about love and family and stuff. As the sun set, Theodore pulled Eleanor onto the dance floor for their first dance as husband and wife. Mrs. Walsh, he murmured into her hair. How does it feel? Perfect. She leaned back to look at him. Terrifying and wonderful and absolutely perfect. No regrets? Not a single one. She smiled. You? Only that I didn't hire you sooner. He spun her gently. Think of all the time we wasted. We found each other when we were supposed to. Eleanor rested her head on his chest. Everything happened exactly as it should. Sophie ran up, tugging on Theodore's jacket. Daddy, Grandma says you have to throw the garter. What's a garter? Ask me when you're 25, Theodore said. Later, when the guests had left and Sophie was asleep upstairs, Theodore found Eleanor on the back patio, still in her wedding dress, staring at the stars. What are you thinking about? He wrapped his arms around her from behind. How my life completely changed. I came here to be a nanny, and instead I found a family. She turned in his arms. I found you. I'm the one who got lucky. You saved us. Both of us. We saved each other. She kissed him softly. That's how it works. They stood there in the moonlight, holding each other, planning their future. Sophie had already requested siblings, at least 3, but I'll settle for 2. Marcus had joked about being the godfather. Eleanor's grandmother had hinted heavily about great-grandchildren, but for now, in this moment, it was just them, Theodore and Eleanor Walsh. A family built on love, laughter, and the courage to take a chance on something real. "Ready for forever?" Theodore asked. Eleanor smiled. "With you?" "Absolutely. Leave your comment and share this story with someone special. It truly helps us keep bringing new stories to you. And if you want to follow every chapter of this emotional journey, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Your support makes all the difference.